Welcome to Learn English with Legends. Today, we explore the life of Ludwig van Beethoven, a musical genius who overcame deafness and created masterpieces that changed music forever.
Part 1. Childhood and Early Talent in Bonn. In the cold winter of December 1770, in the modest town of Bonn, Germany, a child was born who would one day change the world of music forever. Ludwig van Beethoven entered a household filled with music, discipline, and a quiet, simmering tension. His father, Johann, a court musician with high ambitions, immediately recognized the spark in his young son and saw the potential to shape him into a prodigy. But the path to greatness would not be easy. From the very beginning, Ludwig's life was a mixture of wonder and challenge. He displayed an uncanny musical ability almost from birth. By the age of 3, he could pick out melodies on the keyboard with a precision and sensitivity that amazed anyone who heard him. Johann, ambitious and often harsh, saw in his son a reflection of the young Mozart, whom he idolized. Determined to craft a genius, Johann subjected Ludwig to long hours of practice. Mistakes were met with stern words and sometimes punishment, but amidst the strict discipline, Ludwig's talent flourished. His mother, Maria Magdalena, provided the warmth and care that balanced Johann's strictness. She nurtured Ludwig's curiosity and offered comfort when the pressures of training became too heavy for a child's heart. Despite this, the household was not free from hardship. Johann's struggle with alcoholism often created an unpredictable and tense atmosphere. Maria Magdalena's health was fragile, and Ludwig's earliest years were shadowed by both fear and responsibility, as he witnessed the fragility of adult life. These experiences, though painful, would later inform the emotional depth of his music. By the age of 7, Ludwig's extraordinary talent had already begun to draw attention. He performed in local concerts, astonishing audiences with his technical skill and expressive interpretation. Even at such a young age, he had a remarkable ability to convey emotion through music. The melodies he played were not just notes on a page. They were expressions of his young, sensitive soul, capturing joy, melancholy, and wonder in a way that belied his age. Beethoven's education was rigorous. In addition to his father's guidance, he studied under Christian Gottlieb Niffy, the court organist in Bonn, who recognized Ludwig's unique potential. Niffy introduced him to the works of Johann Sebastian Bach, particularly the Well-Tempered Clavier, a collection that would profoundly influence Ludwig's understanding of harmony and composition. Under Niffy's mentorship, Beethoven began composing his own pieces, experimenting with form, counterpoint, and emotional expression. By the age of 12, he had published his first work, a set of keyboard variations that marked the beginning of a lifelong journey in composition. Even as a child, Ludwig's personality began to take shape. He was sensitive, intense, and fiercely determined. Friends and teachers noted his stubbornness, his quick temper, but also his unwavering dedication to music. He was a boy who could lose himself entirely in a composition, ignoring hunger, fatigue, or discomfort, absorbed in pursuit of perfection. His musical curiosity was boundless. He explored the piano, violin, and organ, always seeking new ways to express emotion and narrative through sound. Bonn, while a small town compared to Vienna or Paris, offered young Beethoven exposure to a variety of musical experiences. He attended performances of operas and symphonies, absorbing the works of Mozart, Haydn, and other contemporary composers. These experiences inspired him to push beyond traditional boundaries, experimenting with harmony, rhythm, and musical storytelling. His early compositions, though rooted in the classical style, already hinted at the boldness and originality that would later define his music. By his mid-teens, Beethoven's reputation had grown. Nobles and musicians sought him out for performances in private salons, impressed by his technical skill and emotional expressiveness. These early opportunities not only honed his performance skills, but also instilled in him a sense of ambition and vision. Beethoven began to dream beyond Bonn, imagining a life in a city where his talent could reach its full potential. Yet, Beethoven's early life was not without tragedy. His mother's death when he was 17 brought profound grief, and the responsibility for his younger siblings fell heavily on his shoulders. Johann's alcoholism continued to cast a shadow over family life, leaving Ludwig to navigate both personal loss and domestic instability. These early encounters with suffering, combined with the discipline of his musical training, forged in Beethoven a resilience and intensity that would become central to his character and art. Despite these hardships, Beethoven's childhood was filled with moments of pure inspiration and joy. Music was his refuge, a space where he could explore, imagine, and express emotions that words could not capture. His early compositions, performances, and improvisations revealed a prodigy not only with technical skill, but with a soul attuned to the subtleties of human feeling. The stage was set for a young boy from Bonn to grow into one of the greatest composers the world has ever known, a man whose music would transcend his own life and speak to generations far beyond his own time. As the chapter of childhood closes, Ludwig van Beethoven stood at the threshold of a journey that would take him far beyond the quiet streets of Bonn. With a mind full of melodies, a heart shaped by both joy and hardship, and hands capable of transforming emotion into sound, he prepared to step into a world that would test his limits, challenge his spirit, and ultimately witness the birth of a legend. Part 2, Vienna, Early Career and Rising Fame. As Beethoven left the familiar streets of Bonn, he carried with him not only his belongings, but also a burning ambition and an unshakable sense of purpose. Vienna, the dazzling heart of European music, awaited him, a city where the greatest composers of the age had walked, where concert halls resonated with the works of Mozart and Haydn, and where talent could be recognized, nurtured, and immortalized. For a young man of 19, it was both an exhilarating and intimidating prospect. The first days in Vienna were a mixture of awe and struggle. Beethoven navigated the bustling streets, absorbing the grandeur of the city, its opera houses, and the salons of wealthy patrons. He met influential musicians and attended performances that expanded his musical vision. But the city was also a place of competition and challenge. Young composers from all over Europe sought recognition, and Beethoven had to prove that he was not just another talented musician. He had to demonstrate that he was a force to be reckoned with. Beethoven's first goal was to study with Joseph Haydn, already an established master whose reputation stretched across the continent. Haydn's teaching offered Beethoven not only technical guidance, but also insight into the broader world of composition and musical expression. Yet, their relationship was complex. Beethoven respected Haydn deeply, but his own fiery temperament and innovative ideas sometimes clashed with his teacher's more traditional approach. Still, Haydn's mentorship opened doors, introduced him to influential patrons, and allowed Beethoven to immerse himself in Vienna's musical elite. During these years, Beethoven's life was a delicate balancing act. He performed as a pianist, taught students, and composed, all while navigating challenges of a new city, limited finances, and the pressure to excel. His first compositions in Vienna began to attract attention. Piano sonatas, chamber works, and orchestral pieces demonstrated maturity beyond his years. Listeners noted not only his technical skill, but the emotional intensity and originality of his music. Beethoven was beginning to carve out a place for himself in the musical world, and the whispers of a genius in the making began to circulate. But success in Vienna was not without personal trials. Beethoven's social life was complicated. He was known for his intensity, stubbornness, and occasional irascibility. Friendships were tested, and romantic relationships remained fraught with difficulty. Even as he performed in aristocratic salons and gained the admiration of patrons like Prince Lichnowsky, Beethoven often felt isolated, driven by his inner standards and the relentless pursuit of perfection. Amid this promising ascent, Beethoven faced one of the most frightening developments of his life, the first signs of hearing loss. Initially subtle, it gradually worsened, making conversations difficult and creating anxiety about his future. For a young musician who depended on his ears to compose, perform, and teach, this was terrifying. Beethoven feared that his career, and perhaps his very identity, would be taken from him. Yet, even as his hearing diminished, he found ways to continue, developing an acute inner sense of sound, relying on memory, vibration, and intuition to guide his compositions. During this period, Beethoven produced several important works that showcase his developing style. His Piano Concerto No. 1 in C major demonstrated not only virtuosity, but also innovative dialogue between soloist and orchestra. Chamber pieces and early string quartets revealed his ability to combine structure with emotional expression, hinting at the revolutionary works that would follow. Each composition reflected a mind increasingly confident, bold, and willing to defy convention in pursuit of artistic truth. Beethoven's fame grew steadily. His performances were described as electrifying, infused with passion, and a dramatic energy that captivated audiences. The young composer who had once struggled under his father's strict discipline now commanded the attention of Vienna's musical elite. Yet, Beethoven remained restless. He sought not mere recognition but a lasting impact, a body of work that would transcend his time. Friendships and mentorships played a key role during these years. Beethoven cultivated connections with fellow musicians, students, and influential figures, exchanging ideas, learning new techniques, and refining his craft. He became known for mentoring talented pupils, demanding excellence while offering encouragement, reflecting his belief that true artistry required both discipline and inspiration. As the years passed, Beethoven's reputation solidified. He was no longer simply a prodigy from Bonn. He was a composer whose vision, intensity, and originality promised to redefine music itself. By the end of this chapter in his life, Beethoven had established a foundation upon which his later triumphs, the heroic period, the late masterpieces, and immortal symphonies would be built. Vienna had not only accepted him, but had become a stage for his ambitions, a city where a young man with an extraordinary gift could confront challenges, embrace innovation, and step into the annals of history. The story of Beethoven's early career in Vienna is one of courage, resilience, and relentless pursuit of excellence. It is a testament to a young composer's determination to rise above obstacles, to challenge convention, and to transform talent into lasting achievement. As the chapter closes, Beethoven stands poised at the threshold of both personal struggle and artistic revolution, ready to confront challenges that would test his spirit and ultimately reveal the true genius within him. Part 3. Struggle with Deafness in the Heroic Period. By the dawn of the 1800s, Beethoven had firmly established himself as a rising star in Vienna's vibrant musical world. His performances drew admiration. His compositions began to astonish critics, and his reputation as a bold, original thinker spread through the salons and concert halls. Yet, beneath the surface of his success, a storm was quietly gathering, a personal crisis that would challenge not only his career, but the very essence of his identity. It began subtly. High-pitched notes seemed muted. Conversations grew frustrating, and the world of sound that had always been Beethoven's sanctuary was slipping away. At first, he tried to ignore it, fearing that any admission would mark the end of his aspirations. But by 1801, the truth was unavoidable. Beethoven was losing his hearing. For a man whose life was music, this realization was devastating. In October of 1802, isolated and tormented, Beethoven retreated to the village of Heiligenstadt. It was here, surrounded by nature and the quiet of the countryside, that he confronted the full weight of his affliction. Alone with his thoughts, he wrote what would become known as the Heiligenstadt Testament, a letter to his brothers that revealed the depth of his despair. In it, Beethoven confessed the thoughts of ending his life, describing the anguish of a world growing silent around him. Yet even in this darkness, a glimmer of resolve shone through. He vowed to continue composing, not for fame or fortune, but for the voice of his inner spirit and the impact his music could have on humanity. This period of struggle marked the beginning of what historians now call Beethoven's heroic period. From roughly 1803 to 1812, he transformed adversity into artistry, creating compositions of unparalleled intensity and innovation. The music of this period is characterized by dramatic contrasts, bold harmonic experimentation, and a narrative power that conveys struggle and triumph in equal measure. It was music forged in the crucible of personal suffering, yet filled with an indomitable sense of hope. Among the first masterpieces of this era was the Symphony No. 3, Eroica. Originally intended to honor Napoleon Bonaparte, Beethoven was inspired by the ideals of heroism, freedom, and human potential. The symphony broke the conventions of classical composition, expanding the symphonic form with intricate development, daring harmonies, and unprecedented emotional depth. The Eroica was a declaration. Beethoven's music would no longer simply entertain. It would tell stories, express ideals, and capture the human experience in all its complexity. During these years, Beethoven also composed some of his most iconic piano sonatas. The Waldstein Sonata dazzled audiences with its technical brilliance and expressive power, while the Appassionata Sonata plunged listeners into emotional depths rarely explored in keyboard music. These works demonstrated Beethoven's ability to convey intense human emotion through music, a skill sharpened by his own encounters with suffering, isolation, and determination. Beethoven's personal life during the heroic period was equally dramatic. Romantic endeavors were often fraught with disappointment. His social interactions could be stormy, shaped by his intense personality and uncompromising standards. Friends and students admired his genius, but also recognized the volatility and perfectionism that accompanied it. Yet, these very traits fueled his creativity, driving him to explore new musical territories and reject mediocrity in every form. Despite the progressive loss of hearing, Beethoven's inner musical world thrived. He developed extraordinary techniques for composition, relying on inner hearing, memory, and an acute understanding of musical theory. This period saw the creation of revolutionary works like Symphony No. 5, whose famous four-note motif embodies struggle, fate, and ultimate triumph. The Fifth Symphony, premiered in 1808, left audiences stunned, not merely by its technical mastery, but by the emotional journey it conveyed from darkness to light. The heroic period also saw Beethoven expanding his influence in Vienna's musical society. He performed for royalty, instructed dedicated students, and collaborated with other musicians, all while maintaining a relentless drive to innovate. Works like the Violin Concerto in D major and various string quartets showcase his ability to combine virtuosity, lyrical beauty, and structural sophistication, further solidifying his reputation as a composer of revolutionary vision. Yet, the shadow of deafness loomed ever larger. By 1810, Beethoven's hearing loss was profound, making public performance increasingly challenging. Social isolation intensified, and he often withdrew from public life, relying instead on letters and the inner world of music to communicate his genius. Still, the adversity became a source of creative power. Beethoven's compositions from this period are infused with heroism, struggle, and a transcendent emotional depth that could only have emerged from personal hardship. In reflecting on this era, one sees a remarkable duality of Beethoven's life, a man battling the silence creeping into his world, and yet composing music that resonates louder and more powerfully than ever before. His heroic period is not merely a phase of musical innovation. It is a testament to human resilience, determination, and the capacity to transform suffering into art. Every symphony, sonata, and concerto from this time carries the weight of his personal journey, also communicates universal truths of courage, hope, and triumph. As the chapter closes, Beethoven stands as a figure both tragic and heroic, a genius confronting a devastating affliction, yet channeling it into a body of work that would inspire generations. His music from the heroic period is not just a collection of compositions. It is the embodiment of a human spirit that refuses to be silenced, a declaration that even in the face of immense personal struggle, art, passion, and determination can create immortality. Part 4. Late Period, Greatest Masterpieces, and Personal Struggles. By the mid-1810s, Ludwig van Beethoven's life had reached a pivotal stage. The young prodigy from Bonn had grown into a legendary composer, yet the challenges he faced had multiplied. His hearing, once a source of joy and mastery, had deteriorated to near total deafness, leaving him increasingly isolated from the world of sound he loved so deeply. Vienna, which had once welcomed him with open arms, now bore witness to the quiet solitude of a man whose genius could not be heard in the traditional sense. Yet, in this silence, Beethoven's inner music flourished. The late period, roughly spanning 1815 to 1827, is characterized by compositions that transcend technical mastery to touch profound human emotions. Works from this time reflect introspection, philosophical depth, and a spiritual resonance that was unparalleled in his previous compositions. Beethoven's music evolved, becoming more complex, daring, and emotionally profound, shaped by the personal trials he faced and the wisdom he had accumulated over decades of creative exploration. Among his most iconic achievements of the late period is the Ninth Symphony, completed in 1824. Its final movement, the immortal Ode to Joy, celebrates universal brotherhood, hope, and the enduring power of human connection. The premiere of the symphony was a remarkable moment in music history. Beethoven, unable to hear the music as it was performed, had to rely on the orchestra and conductor, witnessing the audience's applause only when someone gently turned him around. This scene stands as a symbol of the triumph of spirit over limitation, illustrating that true genius transcends physical constraints. Beethoven's late string quartets, including Op. 130, Op. 131, and Op. 132, are considered some of the most profound works in the chamber music repertoire. They are intricate, challenging, and deeply expressive, combining counterpoint, innovation, and emotional depth in ways that continue to influence musicians centuries later. These quartets explore themes of struggle, redemption, reflection, and transcendence, offering a window into Beethoven's soul and the philosophical concerns that shaped his later life. The Hammerklavier Sonata, composed during this period, represents another pinnacle of his genius. Its technical demands are immense, yet it is infused with emotional intensity, structural innovation, and a sense of narrative depth. The sonata exemplifies Beethoven's belief that music could convey ideas, emotions, and stories beyond the limits of language, offering listeners a profound journey of the human experience. Despite his artistic triumphs, Beethoven's personal life remained fraught with challenges. Romantic relationships were often disappointing or unfulfilled, as his intensity and perfectionism created barriers to intimacy. Legal battles over family matters, combined with recurring health problems, added to his burden. Yet, these struggles only seemed to deepen the emotional resonance of his music. The silence imposed by deafness, the loneliness of adulthood, and the weight of expectation all found expression in profound emotional landscapes of his compositions. In addition to symphonies and sonatas, Beethoven composed smaller works that reflected both innovation and introspection. Pieces such as the Missa Solemnis revealed his mastery of vocal and choral composition, blending sacred music traditions with his unique, expressive voice. The work conveys both reverence and personal reflection, a fusion of spirituality and artistry that became a hallmark of his late period. Beethoven's late period is remarkable not only for the genius of his compositions, but also for the sheer determination and resilience he displayed. He composed tirelessly, often isolating himself for days, relying on sketches, notebooks, and an extraordinary inner sense of sound to bring his ideas to life. His deafness, which should have ended his career, became a catalyst for innovation, forcing him to explore new ways of thinking about music, structure, and emotional expression. These years also revealed Beethoven's philosophical and humanistic concerns. He explored ideas about freedom, humanity, and the transcendent power of art. His music became more than entertainment. It was a reflection of the human condition, a conversation with listeners across time and space. The compositions of this period are not only technically brilliant, but spiritually and emotionally profound, offering insight into the mind of a man who had faced immense challenges, yet remained committed to beauty, expression, and truth. As Beethoven approached the final years of his life, his health deteriorated. He suffered from chronic illness, fatigue, and pain, yet his creative output remained extraordinary. Even in the face of mortality, he continued to compose with unyielding dedication, producing works that would influence generations and cement his place in history as one of the greatest composers of all time. The late period of Beethoven's life demonstrates the indomitable power of the human spirit. His music from this era is a testament to resilience, creativity, and the pursuit of excellence in the face of overwhelming adversity. Every symphony, sonata, quartet, and vocal work carries the weight of his personal journey, yet transcends it to communicate universal truths of courage, hope, and the enduring potential of human expression. By the end of his life, Beethoven had transformed music forever. He had redefined what was possible for symphonies, sonatas, and chamber works. His compositions continue to inspire musicians, composers, and audiences, proving that art can endure beyond the limitations of the human body and lifespan. Beethoven's late masterpieces remain a living legacy, echoing through concert halls, classrooms, and hearts around the world. Part 5, Legacy and Inspiration. As Ludwig van Beethoven approached the final years of his life, the city of Vienna watched a man whose music had become larger than life, a force that resonated far beyond the walls of concert halls. His struggles, the deafness that had once threatened to silence him, the personal hardships, and the relentless pursuit of perfection had forged a genius capable of shaping the very course of Western music. Yet, Beethoven remained humble in his intentions. He sought not fame for his own sake, but to express the depths of human emotion, struggle, and triumph through music. Beethoven's influence on the musical world was already profound. Composers who came after him, from Schubert and Brahms to Wagner and Mahler, drew inspiration from his bold innovations, his daring harmonies, and his ability to convey the human experience with such clarity and power. His symphonies, piano works, and string quartets expand the possibilities of composition, setting new standards for emotional depth and structural complexity. But perhaps more importantly, Beethoven's life itself became a symbol of resilience, determination, and artistic courage. In the final years, despite failing health and near-complete deafness, Beethoven continued to compose. His late works, including the Missa Solemnis, the late string quartets, and the Ninth Symphony, demonstrated that true artistry transcends physical limitations. He worked tirelessly, often isolated in his rooms, relying on sketches, musical imagination, and the unwavering belief that his inner voice could overcome any barrier. These years reveal a man who had turned adversity into his greatest strength, creating works that would echo across centuries. Beethoven's personal life, though often lonely and challenging, was marked by intense dedication, passionate relationships, and an unwavering commitment to his vision. He struggled with love, family obligations, and health problems, yet he remained fiercely devoted to music. His letters and conversation books reveal a man of strong opinions, deep emotions, and a remarkable sense of justice and humanity. These qualities infuse his music with authenticity, making every note a reflection of his inner world. By the time of his death in March 1827, Beethoven had left an indelible mark on the world. His funeral drew thousands of mourners, all paying tribute to a man whose art had transformed lives. Musicians, composers, and ordinary citizens alike recognized that Beethoven had done more than compose music. He had redefined what it meant to be a composer, an artist, and a human being capable of transcending hardship through creativity. Beethoven's legacy is not only in the works he created, but in the spirit he embodied. His story teaches that genius is not born solely from talent, but forged through resilience, determination, and the courage to confront life's greatest challenges. His music continues to inspire, reminding listeners that even in silence, despair, or adversity, the human spirit can achieve greatness. The impact of Beethoven's compositions reaches across time and space. The symphonies continue to stir audiences in grand concert halls. The piano sonatas challenge and thrill performers, and the string quartets reveal layers of emotional and intellectual complexity to scholars and music lovers alike. Beyond technical brilliance, his music resonates because it speaks to universal human experiences: struggle, joy, hope, love, and the triumph of perseverance. Today, Beethoven is remembered not just as a composer, but as a legend of resilience and inspiration. His life story, from the prodigy of Bonn to the trials of deafness, to the creation of music that transcends generations, offers a timeless lesson that creativity, passion, and unwavering commitment can overcome even the most daunting obstacles. He showed that limitations, no matter how severe, can become the catalyst for extraordinary achievement. In conclusion, Ludwig van Beethoven's journey is one of triumph over adversity, relentless pursuit of artistic vision, and enduring impact on humanity. His music, born of struggle and genius, continues to speak to listeners around the world, offering solace, inspiration, and joy. From the quiet streets of Bonn to the grand stages of Vienna, from the despair of deafness to the heights of musical mastery, Beethoven's life and art remain an enduring testament to the power of the human spirit and the timeless beauty of music. As the echoes of his symphonies continue to fill concert halls and hearts alike, Beethoven's story remains a guiding light for anyone seeking to overcome challenges, pursue their passions, and leave a lasting mark on the world. He did not merely create music. He created a legacy that will never be silenced.
Beethoven's story shows us that talent, courage, and determination can create a lasting legacy. Which of his works inspires you the most? Share in the comments below.